All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. Excuse me, we got the recap, not the recap. We got the preview episode of Unqualified Analysis. Maybe one of the last ones we're doing right now, man. I mean, we got to evaluate after championship weeks. We got like a week off. Probably just drop down to one episode next week. So, I mean, this might be the last 2-episode week that we have here, folks. Didn't realize that until right now as I started talking, but hey, man, we're about at the end of the season. That shit snuck up on me. I'm not going to lie. Just kind of saying that out loud, that's crazy. That's crazy stuff right there. But we have got ourselves a recap of the national championship game. Then we're going to preview the NFL championship round, I suppose. AFC, NFC championship. We're going to give you a look at both of those. But yeah, between those, we're going to talk about some coaching headlines because people are starting to get hired now. Some things that we saw as inevitable did end up happening. One kind of shocker, but I guess I categorize it under a pleasant surprise, though seemingly the involved parties had just about no choice. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But yeah, I guess first and foremost, I'll take a swig of this here. Right off a workout, sweat an entire bucket, and I'm drinking a Coke. I'm a model of perfect health here, but we'll just keep it moving. I already opened it, so might as well just keep it rolling, right? Anyways, had to get that burp out there. Get the aftershock out of the way as well. So, let's wrap up the college football season, shall we? So we had Ohio State versus Notre Dame in Atlanta for the national title game. Obviously, everything on the line here for both teams. It was going to be the first national title for whichever coach won this one. We knew that was going to be the case going into the Final Four at that point, that there was going to be a first-time national title holder. And ultimately, Notre Dame comes out of the gates hot. I mean, hot may not be the right term, but playing the football they want to play. They go right down the field on a 18-play, nearly 11-minute drive. Maybe it was like just short of 10. I can't quite remember what it was. Riley Leonard had 9 carries on the first drive. They punch it in for a touchdown. Exactly how you want to start the game if you are Notre Dame. Little thing of note, though, on the sidelines, and it was pointed out by the broadcast as well. I mean, throughout the drive, Riley Leonard looked gassed. He went over to the sideline after running for that touchdown in the opening drive and threw up on the sidelines. Basically, they just put it all, they just battle of the bulged it pretty much. We're just going to put every last piece of ammunition and soldiers that we have right into this one concentrated spot, and then we're just going to see where it goes from here. Unfortunately, Ohio State went right down the field. They scored a touchdown. Ohio State would go on to score 31 unanswered. And then basically that was all that she wrote from there. It was not over. Ultimately, Notre Dame kind of came back and made it interesting there in the second half. But the Buckeyes did survive. They did cover. They win it 34-23. Ryan Day wins his first national title as a head coach. And hey, they did something that frankly I did not think that they would be able to do coming out of the regular season. But once again, I say this a little tongue-in-cheek, but ultimately, if you think about it, you probably agree with me to a certain extent, whether you admit it or not. You probably agree with me, and I should kind of run this idea by my Ohio State fan friends, because being in Ohio, there are quite a few of those. But you do kind of have to thank Michigan for this, because without that deeply traumatic football experience, you wouldn't even be in this spot. You would not have realized your full potential without facing the worst of the worst as far as losses are concerned. That was a come-to-Jesus moment. And what did they do? They saw the light of the Lord, and they just kept it moving from there. They steamrolled their way to the playoff. Most wins against top 10 teams of any team all time in a single season. Part of that is the fact that they played 16 games. So that kind of juiced the stats a little bit. Also, being in the playoff, obviously, you get 4 right there just by winning all, right? 4, right? So you get the first round, you're in the 8. Then, yeah, 4 by default top 10 wins. So that kind of juiced the stats a little bit. They're not the greatest team of all time. I think LSU, 2019 LSU, probably wins by, let's be respectful, call it 15, 14, they still win by double digits. Don't get it twisted. That LSU team was different. And frankly, that 01 Miami team, their 2000 Miami team, I can't remember which one won the title and had like 20-some first-round picks on the team. That one also probably runs Ohio State off the football field. And that's not shade to Ohio State. That's just let's put this team in the larger context here. There's a reason why they ended up being the 8th seed coming into the playoffs. So let's not get crazy here with our praise of Ohio State. But a national championship deserves all of the credit in the world. And I'll tell you what, I don't know what Will Howard has left as far as eligibility. I got to get a look at this here real quick. So he is a senior. He's gone after this year, it looks like. Yeah, I mean, he's been in college since 2020. Although maybe he does have an extra year of eligibility. I'm actually not entirely sure on that. But coming off a career year, I mean, really, draft stock's probably about as high as it's going to get. But at the same time, if you come back and do this again, maybe not. I don't know. Eligibility at this point is a complete unknown to me. Until we get farther down the line, and even then, we got guys going to JUCO who are going to be the super duper seniors as well. So this is just never going to end at this point. I don't know how many years of eligibility anyone has left. I don't know. I don't know. If Will Howard, if you come back, Ohio State's the favorite for the national championship next year. They probably already are, regardless, because if Will Howard does leave, listen, there's a guy in the draft right now coming out of Texas, Quinn Ewers. The history there is not fantastic. He did transfer out after 1 year, and he was the highest rated recruit of all time. He was expected to be the guy going forward. Ran away from competition as some people had seen it, but goes to Texas, has a really solid college career. Now goes into the draft because regardless, that's Arch's show from now on down there in Texas. That's just kind of the way this is going to be. So that kind of forces him into the draft. There were some credible rumors out there, it seemed, that he might enter the transfer portal for one last season in college football. If Will Howard is not the quarterback for Ohio State next year, Aaron Nolan transferred out from Ohio State. He's at South Carolina now. Already said my piece on that before. I mean, you can go back and find it somewhere. That's just transfer portal for you, baby. But if he's not the quarterback, Will Howard, don't be shocked if Ohio State throws some money around and says, hey, you want to bury the hatchet here, Quinn. Let's come on back down to Columbus, Ohio, and see if we can run it back for a back-to-back national championship and a win against Michigan. I don't know what's going to happen if Ohio State loses to Michigan again next year. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. Columbus might burn down. I really have no idea. Being over in, not too far away from Columbus, we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna gauge the pulse of the people out here and report back to you on what the people are saying as far as the state of Ohio State's program if they did lose to Michigan. Right now they're on top of the moon. You can't say nothing to these people right now. They're on top of the moon and they deserve to be. You won the national title. We'll see where they are in about a year. We'll see because if I know Ohio State fans, and I think I do, things could be drastically different over the course of a year. Sorry. Customer service email. My bad. We're just going to keep moving from here. Anyways, that being said, Ohio State fans are still psychopathic. So we'll see how it goes from here. But you won the national title. You have Jeremiah Smith for a guaranteed 2 more seasons. We'll see if he kind of mails it in a la Nick Bosa in his last year. Kind of, my hamstring hurts. Guess I got to stop for the whole season, I suppose. We'll see if that happens. Hopefully by that point, maybe we'll have some contractual ability to, I don't know, maybe not have that be a thing. Maybe we get players playing in bowl games. I don't know. Could be fun. It's a pipe dream, though. I already know that. But Caleb Downs coming back for one more year. Again, has to come back for one more year. He's gone after next year, don't get me wrong, but he's coming back for one more year. I mean, you're losing a ton on the defensive line. There's no way around that. JT Tuimoloau probably gone. Jack Sawyer probably gone. I think he's actually a senior. Both of them, I think, are actually seniors. So they're gone regardless. New guys are going to have to step up. That's the bottom line there. New guys are going to have to come in. They're going to have to perform big right out of the gates if Ohio State wants to keep this thing moving. And the offensive line is kind of a constant simmering concern to a certain extent. We'll see how that goes going forward. I would assume Chip Kelly is going to stick around as the offensive coordinator for Ohio State. That would make a lot of sense. I think he's pretty much done with being a head coach at this point. I think he's fine with just calling plays from here on out. But yeah, I mean, we'll see if I would assume Jim Knowles stays at this point. I mean, we're too late in the cycle for him to get any job. Benefits and drawbacks of being in the playoff and making a deep run. That's also something we got to figure out as far as the coaching cycle is concerned, because it kind of puts the assistants in a tough spot for picking up jobs unless they leave their team on a national championship run. Which, I mean, if the opportunity is good enough, wouldn't be shocked if that becomes a trend if we don't fix the calendar a little bit, because January 20th for a college football national championship, it's too long of a season. It's too long. You got to start the season a week earlier. I've heard this suggested before, so I'm just kind of parroting this opinion because I think it's kind of a good idea for where we're at now. We're just adapting with the times. It is what it is. I've spoken my piece on how I feel about this current system. But being where we're at right now, bump that season up one more week. Probably play the Army-Navy game concurrent with the first round of the playoffs. Let's be honest here. They're not making the playoffs. Neither of them are going to make the playoffs. That's just simply not going to happen. Army was probably the closest one because they played Notre Dame the last, and we saw what happened when they played a team that was worth a damn. They're not making it to the playoffs, so play it concurrently with the college football playoff. Not saying like concurrently, like not at the same time. Still need their standalone spot, but we got to speed this thing up a little bit. This needs to be ended at the beginning of January as the NFL playoffs are getting rolling. This does not need to stick around for too long. We need to fix that schedule a little bit. I don't know if we're going to see any momentum on that in 2025 or leading up to 2025, but we'll see. I think at some point we see something like that in the near future. That being said, from Notre Dame's standpoint, haven't hardly talked about them at all here just because I'm giving my flowers to Ohio State because I'm an objective man here, of course. But Notre Dame, for sure, they got something cooking over there. I assume, I don't know how much eligibility Riley Leonard has left. I think he's a senior this year, so he's probably out the door unless he somehow finds another season of eligibility, hiding under the mattress somewhere. Who knows? Everyone's got at least like 7, I suppose, at this point in things and how they're progressing. So I would assume that Notre Dame hops back on the transfer portal grind again at quarterback. I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel like dipping into the portal year after year. Like, it seems to be the in vogue tactic right now, but I just don't necessarily see that as a sustainable product to keep putting out there on the field. I mean, in theory, you're bringing in an elite quarterback. Ideally, anyways, you're bringing in an elite quarterback, and that's going to make your offense better no matter what, better than whatever incumbent that you had. And if you're seeing that the guys that you brought in for recruiting end up looking like busts, I can understand why you would bring in another quarterback there to kind of take the reins there. But, I think in an ideal world, you have a guy, as a one-year bridge. You bring in a true freshman that you feel really good about. And then once that season is done, you both go your separate ways. The true freshman steps in, and then, or it would be redshirt freshman at that point. And then hopefully you have, 2 more seasons there of starting quarterback play, maybe 3 if he decides to stick around for the redshirt junior year, if all things go well. I think that's the ideal way to do it. You build a little more chemistry that way. So that's my biggest question, I suppose, with Notre Dame. I just got so much faith in Marcus Freeman as a coach. I mean, sometimes makes some boneheaded decisions in game. That has happened. That happened in this one. They ran on like a quick field goal kick that they ultimately missed. That didn't really understand that at all, but that happened. So in game, a little bit hit and miss. As far as a culture builder is concerned, a recruiter, a leader, I think he's about as good as they get in college football. And that all that really tells me is Marcus Freeman probably shouldn't go to the NFL, but most college coaches shouldn't. I'd say 95 or more % of college coaches should not take a head coaching job in the NFL because it's just so different, and vice versa, honestly. I don't think a whole lot of NFL coaches have what it takes to succeed at the college level. So they're just different sports on the whole, but that's not a slight to Marcus Freeman. That's just, it's a testament to how good of a leader that he is, that Notre Dame has gotten to this point in 3 seasons. They've gotten progressively better each and every year to a point now where they just all of a sudden broke out. I mean, aided by a tissue paper soft schedule, but still, wins are wins here at this point, man. I mean, Notre Dame was a 1-loss team heading into this national title game. And regardless of the outcome, yes, obviously you have to get better across the board talent-wise, but you got to love where you're at. You got to love where you're at. I mean, under Marcus Freeman, I feel like you can always just assume offensive line's going to be nasty, defense is going to be stingy. If you can just get the run game going, if you can get some contributions from the passing game, don't turn the ball over, be efficient if you can be, that's all you really need, especially with the coordinators that they have for however long they keep them. Really great group of coordinators there that they have between Mike Denbrock, and I still don't know who the defensive coordinator for Notre Dame is. Is it Phil Steele? I think that might be the case, but I also Phil Steele, I think, might be the Iowa defensive coordinator. I don't know. Notre Dame defensive coordinator has been coaching his ass off, and that's a crew that's going to stick around for at least one more year. Notre Dame is still going to be right in this thing next year, especially with the 12-team playoff. They should be well within that 12-team playoff if they kind of keep going with the direction that they've been going here in year 4 under Marcus Freeman. So with that said, on the whole, as we look at the college football season, utter madness throughout the regular season. Obviously, the madness kind of dissipated as we got closer to the playoff, and throughout the playoff, it wasn't a snoozer of a playoff. We got a couple good games in there, specifically the Texas-Arizona State game, banger for sure. We got some good close games in there. Ultimately, Ohio State made an improbable seeming run with how the regular season ended and got the championship. Kudos to them. But, I mean, on the whole, pretty damn good season. Mississippi State making me miserable notwithstanding. Pretty good season otherwise, man. Utter chaos. No one knew it was going to happen week in, week out. Just an utter classic of a season. I mean, the fact that October 12th ended up living up to the hype just warms the heart. It just warms the heart, man. So yeah, looking forward to doing this all over again next year, and looking forward to being on the ride with you here, boys and girls. It's gonna be a hot one out there, huh? It's gonna be a hot one. Let's just say, hey, we're enjoying this thing. We're enjoying this thing right now, and don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. That's how I feel about this college football season. Congratulations to Ohio State. Congratulations are in order to Notre Dame as well. You get a nice little golf clap. Back to the wood shop. The lab. I don't know. Improve. That's all I'm saying. That's all we got for the college football season. It's in the books. Lovely. Wonderful. Love to see it. Anyways, with that said, with that recap out of the way, let's kind of take a step back, ease ourselves into the NFL ranks here. Let me get a swig of this Coke, and then we're going to talk about some coaching headlines. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for you. So we'll get into that in just a moment. Good stuff. Good stuff. Whew, excuse me. Okay. So, all coaching headlines in the NFL at this point. Head coaching positions are getting filled, staffs are getting filled, hires are being made. So we're getting some momentum here as we kind of ease ourselves into the offseason a little bit for the NFL. It's not the offseason for 4 teams, but for the other 28, we are in full offseason mode. We are planning towards free agency at this point. So, first and foremost, Mike Vrabel has been assembling the Patriots coaching staff. So, first and foremost, the Patriots hired former Lions defensive assistant under Aaron Glenn, Terrell Williams, as their new defensive coordinator. Don't know much about him. He was with the Titans when Mike Vrabel was there, I think for the full tenure, if I'm not mistaken, 2018 to 2023. Just spent last season with Detroit for a cup of coffee. Now he's back with Mike Vrabel once again with the New England Patriots. I like that there's the rapport there for sure. So optimistic about that hire. Then we got Jeremy Springer, not to be confused with Jerry Springer, as their special teams coordinator. Can't lie to you, I don't know who that man is, but made a joke out of it, so good there. And lo and behold, this man, you know him, you love him, unless you're Denver Broncos or Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, actually, at that point. My apologies there to the Oakland faithful. I know you guys got did wrong. But the man that just can't escape New England, Josh McDaniels, is back as the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots under Mike Vrabel. I don't know if this was the Krafts kind of sticking their fingers in the pie a little bit. I would assume they gave Mike Vrabel full autonomy to do this. Honestly, Josh McDaniels should just be the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots until he dies. Look, if he wants to retire one day, go right ahead, more power to him. I don't know what he would do in retirement. I don't really know what Josh McDaniels does on a day-to-day basis. Maybe he's just an asshole to everybody. I don't really know. I truly don't know anything about Josh McDaniels other than had some similar problems in 2 different head coaching spots. So, not a head coach. We can say that pretty definitively at this point. We'll see if another decade dulls people's memories of just how bad he is as a head coach. But you do it twice now. I feel like you just got the scarlet letter on you. I don't think you're getting hired again. So, for a defensive head coach, that's a fantastic hire in Josh McDaniels because, we've talked about this before. I'm just trying to find a way to say it once again. But when you specialize on a certain side as a head coach, like Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings is a perfect example on the opposite end of the spectrum from Mike Vrabel. He calls the plays on the offensive side of the ball, provides you great stability on offense. The offense has been great as a result of that. But when you're an offensive head coach, what you want to do is you want to toe the line to a certain extent. At the very least, initially, if you want to have stability within the franchise. You want a guy that's going to call a really good game on the opposite side of the ball from where you specialize, so you can kind of trust him to handle everything on that side of the ball. Obviously, you come over to kind of check in, be with the boys, rally the troops every so often, and kind of let them know that you care. But ultimately, let the other guy, that coordinator that has skills that you don't, run the side of the ball that he was born to run, essentially. If you can find a guy that you can trust like that, that's going to stick around for a long time, that is a guy that you want on your staff, so you just don't have to worry about it. You're stable. Year after year, it's going to be fine on the other side of the ball because you're going to have that same guy in there. Kevin O'Connell has got it with Brian Flores. It's bullshit that Brian Flores does not have a head coaching job. I understand that it's a very unique situation because of how things ended in Miami and the lawsuit that's still just kind of lingering out there. It's not something that's going away. It is bullshit, but I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it's not having an effect on Brian Flores getting a job. Based on the last couple of years, he should have a job, but based on the circumstances, he's going to be around for the foreseeable future. He's a great guy to have because you can just trust the defense to him. Andy Reid, same thing with Steve Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo is not getting another head coaching job at this point. Fair or not, he's too old in the eyes of these owners. These owners want to bring in like a 20-year investment, maybe. If they hit the lottery and get just the greatest coach in franchise history, or they get a really good, solid young guy at the head coaching position, they can ride that guy into the sunset for 20 years. You can't do that with Steve Spagnuolo. So I can understand, and especially old dogs learning new tricks, there's a corollary about that, I suppose. But, I mean, that's another situation. I lost my train of thought for a second. I apologize. That's another situation where Andy Reid just trusts him with the defensive side of the ball, and you've seen the Chiefs work with that beautifully to the tune of 2 straight championships, in 2 straight Super Bowls, that is, in the NFL. Now we're looking at this with the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel, very defensive coach. I think he's the type of guy that's going to let Terrell Williams call the defensive plays. I don't think he's a guy that calls the defense necessarily all the time. I think he's good with delegating so that he can focus on really what he does best, which is in-game decision-making. Very Belichickian as far as that's concerned. When he was with the Tennessee Titans, for my money, pound for pound, the very best in-game situational decision-making coach in the entire league. He's just smart as hell. I mean, does not flinch in those late game situations, always seems to make the right call when it gets right down to it. So, I mean, he's probably going to let Terrell Williams call the plays, but he's going to have a heavy influence on the defensive side of the ball. Having a guy like Josh McDaniels that you know at this point will not get another head coaching job. I would be floored, shocked. It would take one terrible owner in order to pull that trigger. Not saying it's not going to happen, but it's probably not going to happen for a very long time, and I don't think it'll happen at all. If things work out here, you've got your offensive coordinator for as long as you need him and for as long as he performs well. He's not going anywhere. So I love this hire. He's a great offensive coordinator. He's always been good at coordinating offense. I mean, by God, he made Mac Jones look downright serviceable at times in his rookie season. So I'm not discounting. He's a very good offensive coordinator. So I think he's a great addition to the staff. And I think the Patriots are doing some really, really good things. I'm excited to see Josh McDaniels with Drake May a little bit. I think this Patriots team is in for a bounce-back season. I mean, they lost so much from injuries on the defensive side of the ball. They just weren't very good scheme-wise on the defensive side of the ball. There was some stuff going on. There's a reason Gerard Mayo is not here for year 2. Let's just say that. Unfortunate that it had to be Gerard Mayo, notably black head coach, that took the fall after 1 year. Seems to happen a lot, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I think he came out better on the other side. Josh McDaniels is a hell of a hire. Hell of a hire. Do not get it twisted. Hell of a hire. What are we doing on time? We're doing perfectly fine. About 30 minutes in. A little short of that. So, up next, Raiders. Staying in the Tom Brady, New England Patriots-ish vein. Raiders hired Bucs assistant GM John Spytek to their GM role. Spytek's had his name in the circle, the hiring circle, I suppose. Been getting a lot of interviews, really over the course of the last 2-3 seasons at this point. You knew he was going to get one of these jobs at some point. I imagine Tom Brady's time in Tampa had something to do with this. More importantly, though, and let's not lose sight of this, we know Brady loves, and I mean loves, Spytek from his time at New England. So this is just a match made in heaven. I feel like Brady was all over this one. Obviously, more of his time in Tampa is probably bigger, but with a name like Spytek, you could understand if Tom Brady's paying for a little espionage around there too. So we'll see if that factors in. Hey man, if he gets personnel like Brett Veach over there with the no, Brett Veach is the Kansas City GM. Who's that? It's Jason Light, I think. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's the GM for the Bucs. I apologize on that front, but hey, if he can acquire talent like that, hey, that would be beneficial for the Raiders, because they don't really have a whole lot outside of Brock Bowers and Max Crosby, who are both utterly trapped on a terrible football team. We'll see if the new administration changes that. But they got one roadblock out of the way. Now it's time to start looking at head coaches a little bit. The best candidates are gone at this point, but we'll see how it works out. We'll see how it works out. Probably going to be a laughing stock if I know Mark Davis and the Raiders, but hey, we'll see. He wants to win. He wants to win, and I think he's a good guy. So, hey, who knows? Who knows? Maybe he pulls it all together. Maybe the influence of Tom Brady kind of rights the ship here a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. So, expected. Ultimately, both sides wanted this to happen. So, it did. Aaron Glenn officially got the nod as the new Jets head coach, despite the organization allowing him to leave the building after their last interview, which, boys and girls, a little rule of thumb out there for you. If you really want a candidate, if your team really wants a candidate, like you are pretty sure after sitting with them, this is your guy, you don't let him leave the facility without a contract. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to call whenever Aaron Glenn gets back to the hotel. He may fly down to Jacksonville. That obviously would not happen. I think the fact that other jobs available, not really looking too hot right now, kind of factored into that as well. But at the same time, it's amateur hour shit from the Jets. We come to expect that, of course. Just full-on amateur hour, though. Do they have a GM at this point? I don't know if the Jets do have a GM. They might hire the GM after, which, okay, good luck, I suppose. That seems to be... I mean, that's a way of going about it, I suppose. They must have a whole lot of trust in Aaron Glenn. That's all I got to say about that. And I might be totally wrong, too. I might just be spewing smoke out of my ass. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't think that's the metaphor there, but you understand. You understand what I'm saying there. That being said, they let him get out of the building, still get the deal done, and ultimately, amateur hour tactics aside, I think they got the right hire here. So yes, it's still kind of in the same vein of Robert Saleh coming in. Not a whole lot of difference there as far as the background is concerned. Aaron Glenn, though, I mean, from everything I've heard from people that I trust in sports media and all that sort of stuff, Aaron Glenn is ready for this. He is a natural-born leader, it seems like. He's got a head coach written all over him. He was going to get one of these jobs this year. I was pretty sure about that coming into this thing, and it didn't take a whole lot longer than Ben Johnson coming over to the Bears. Only like a day or two later, Aaron Glenn was the new head coach of the New York Jets. So you knew that this was going to happen. It was only a matter of time, and I think Aaron Glenn brings the juice back to that defense. He's a brilliant defensive coordinator. We saw that down the stretch this year. Cracked the code on Sam Darnold and really derailed the whole Vikings season with that one performance in Week 18. So all the credit in the world to him for sure. He's a brilliant defensive mind. Now, as we were talking about with Kevin O'Connell and with Mike Vrabel specifically, hiring Josh McDaniels, who does he get as his offensive coordinator? That's the real question here, because that was what really sank Robert Saleh. You can blame the quarterbacks all you want. Joe Douglas was poo-poo dog shit at drafting offensive line and quarterbacks. That's just a tradition as old as time in New York, though. Regardless of the team. Also, if we're being technical about it, it's New Jersey. There's not a whole lot of teams in New York City, but I digress on that front. But yeah, we can blame the players there that were acquired. But ultimately, what really sank Robert Saleh is that he did not hire one good offensive coordinator. Not a single one. I think he started out with Mike LaFleur. Went on to Nathaniel Hackett. I think he had Nathaniel Hackett for the last 2 years. I want to say none of them were good. We did not expect either of them to be good, quite frankly, unless you got fooled by the last name Lafleur. That newsbreaker here, Mike ain't Matt. I'm telling you that right now. Mike ain't Matt, and we saw that pretty early on. He never had an offensive coordinator that was worth a damn, frankly. And I don't know we'll see if Aaron Glenn can do it. If Aaron Glenn can hire a good offensive coordinator and kind of right the ship here, all bets are off. All bets are off. I mean, the Jets could be good as soon as next year. We'll see what the Aaron Rodgers situation is. Knowing him, he's going to draw it out for full effect and maximum attention because regardless of what he says, he loves that shit. Whether he truly realizes it or not, he loves that shit. So he's going to draw it out and, create some drama. We'll see if he retires or not. I think he should. But maybe he has some conversations with Aaron Glenn, decides to run it back for one more year. Who's to say? The Jets aren't really... I don't think they're really high enough for any of the quarterbacks this year. There's really only two of them that are worth a damn, quite frankly. I mean, it's Shedeur Sanders and it's Cam Ward. And then don't look at the rest of the draft. It's not pretty. It's not pretty at the QB position there, coming off of last season. So maybe you try to talk Aaron Rodgers into coming back. We'll see how it goes there. Or maybe you do a little reunion of your own and kind of go get Sam Darnold. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think Sam Darnold would... Well, we'll have to see who the offensive coordinator is because I could be totally wrong on that, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that would be a good idea to go back to the Jets. But, yeah, Aaron Glenn, the best possible hire for the Jets, I would say. Ben Johnson wasn't going to interview with you. And I think Aaron Glenn, frankly, outside of Mike Vrabel, if you're looking for like a young buck head coach, I suppose, not like a grizzled veteran like Vrabel, and that was always going to be a New England Patriots reunion. I don't care what other interviews he took, it was always going to be the New England Patriots. Let's not get it twisted there. He was probably the second best option on the market and the best option that the Jets were frankly going to get. So, hey, you got to be happy if you're a Jets fan right now. It's really all you can be. I don't think you're ever going to get rid of that sense of impending doom, but it is what it is at this point, man. You've lived with this probably your whole life if you're a younger person, really an older person for that matter too. With the exception of the Rex Ryan era, not a pretty history for the New York Jets. Outside of that one Super Bowl year with Joe Namath, not pretty. Anyways, we'll keep it moving from there. Liam Cohen pulled out of consideration for the Jags head coaching job and signed an extension with the Bucs. So that pretty much leaves the Jags with roughly zero options at this point. Brian Flores is still out there, I suppose. That's maybe the best one that you're going to get at this point. But Liam Cohen coming back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you got to be thrilled if you are in the Buccaneers organization, if you're on the Buccaneers team, if you're a Buccaneers fan. I kind of low-key thought that Liam Cohen might jump ship this year for one of those jobs. I didn't think that he was the best candidate on the market, but he did so well this past year with Baker Mayfield and co. that I just thought that he was going to get one of those jobs, and I think the Jaguars wanted to hire him. Problem is he was like their fourth, fifth string option because everyone else didn't want to work for Trent Baalke, who they knew was just a... That's the worst hiss I've done in my entire life. I started sucking in instead of hissing out. But yeah, your boss is a snake, Trent Baalke. So I can understand why everyone kind of said no. Man, the Buccaneers, I mean, unless Todd Bowles has anything to say about it, I mean, the Buccaneers might be really damn good next year. We'll see what Chris Godwin looks like coming back. Jalen McMillan's only going to get better this offseason. I assure you of that. They'll probably pick up another receiver as well because, I mean, your top two receivers aren't exactly getting any younger at this point. So I would expect them to be intentional on the outside. Hey, man, with Bucky Irving coming back too, you pick up a player here and there with everyone returning as far as coordinators and, major players are concerned. Hey, we're cooking with gas here, baby. I mean, you just think about, the Buccaneers were one of two losses for the Lions all year. Two. They've got them early in the season, so I'll give you that. But that's how good the Buccaneers were early in the season, before Chris Godwin went down, before Mike Evans went down. If they just don't get bit by the injury bug, I think they might run away with this NFC South next year. But the Buccaneers are a team to watch out for sure. But pursuant this discussion, following the frankly embarrassing turn down by Liam Cohen, a young guy, like I mean, you don't usually expect to be turned down by young guys who have only been an offensive coordinator for 1 year like that. That's got to be a low moment for the Jaguars. And after that, lo and behold, after every head coaching candidate basically told them no, my interpretation, but I think it's pretty congruent with reality at this point. Not concrete fact, but if you just read between the lines here, you can see what's happening. The Jags are, in fact, parting ways with Trent Baalke. That news came down this afternoon, not all too long after Liam Cohen decided to go back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Better late than never, I suppose. It's kind of late in the hiring cycle to fire a GM, but this is something that had to happen like 3-4 years ago at this point. I don't know. I mean, Trent Baalke, I don't know how long he's been there. He's like, he's Nosferatu. He refuses to die. He just slinks back into his lair and then comes out and sucks the blood of whatever patsy head coach that he's brought in this time. So good to have the snake out of the building. Do I trust the Cons to hire a good GM next time? No, I don't. This feels like a Ryan Grigson spot. A guy who wasn't very good with the Indianapolis Colts, but has been with a good GM in Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah over the last couple of years. Why not? Also with the 49ers before that. Let's not forget with John Lynch, who brought in all that talent and built that vaunted defense. Hey, this feels like a Ryan Grigson spot. Maybe. We'll see. There are other candidates out there. Frankly, the GM candidates, who the fuck even knows who those people are? No idea. I know some of these coordinators, but I know many of these coordinators, actually, but I don't know any of these GM candidates. Only reason I knew John Spytek is because his name has been in the media, in the coaching rounds, not the coaching rounds, the GM rounds over the last couple hiring cycles. So we knew that was going to happen. Outside of that, who the hell even knows? I guess I didn't know Mike Borgonzi's name because he was in the circuit last year. But I digress. I digress on that front. With that said, we'll see who they bring in. I'm not very optimistic, but hey, that doesn't preclude you from being optimistic, okay? Just, hey, go with the flow, good vibes. That's pretty much it for headlines at this point, though. So let's do a little preview ski of the championship games here, as we are a little over 42 minutes into this thing. Another swig of the Coke is in order, of course, before this thing gets cold. We have crossed over the threshold of 8 p.m. We're officially after dark, baby. I mean, we've been after dark for quite some time. I mean, fuck this time of year, but hey, we're after hours here. It's getting late night. 8 o'clock is not late night, but you get what I'm saying. I might eat dinner at like 9:30 tonight. I was pretty much dead on the money last time I said that. We'll see if I'm dead on this time. Anyways, so first and foremost, the early slot on Sunday, 3 o'clock slot, we have got a in-division rivalry. Don't tell Micah Parsons. He was just happy that the Commanders beat the Lions. No regard for the fact that his two division rivals are now going to be playing for a spot in the Super Bowl. That did not seem to compute in our boy's head. But Commies are at the Eagles. Tough environment to go into for the Commanders, man. I mean, those Philly scumbags, boy, are they bad people. I mean, not all of them, not all Philly fans for sure. The environment in that stadium glorifies pieces of shit. That's an absolute fact. You can dispute that all you want. There's a reason that visiting teams do not bring their families along to Philly Stadium because they are mean. They are the closest thing that we have to soccer hooligans. You would not feel safe as a visiting fan. Just, ask the Packers fan last week, but although apparently both parties kind of fucking suck in that case, so that's not a great example. But still, little things happening all over the stadium in Philadelphia, and that bleeds onto the football field, man. You saw Jared Verse lean into it last week and have the game of his life against the Philadelphia Eagles. You're going to need some of that juice from Jaden Daniels, and frankly, he's got it. He's a rookie. We'll see if it manifests this time around. they're facing a much better defense than they faced last week. They ain't putting up 45 on the Eagles. I'll tell you that right this second. But Jaden Daniels, he's got it. He's got it. He's already in that top 10 discussion. More impressive to me than C.J. Stroud last year, frankly. C.J. Stroud set all sorts of records. Jaden Daniels is a phenom. He is really, really damn good. Was clutch as hell last week versus the number 1 seed on the road in another hostile environment in Detroit. He's just got it. I mean, the line on this thing is 6 in most places. I'm too much of a big fat pussy to bet on the Commanders because I think there's a possibility the Eagles could come out here and run them off the football field if they play their cards right. But something about Jaden Daniels, and I would assume that a lot of the public feels roughly the same way as me. Something about Jaden Daniels just makes me want to bet on the underdog here at +6. I'm not going to do it, don't get me wrong, but Jaden Daniels, I mean, he's going to have the game of his life. But let's get into this thing, shall we? Let's just get into this thing. So, kind of got into it a little bit offensively, but the Washington offense versus the Philadelphia defense, it's going to be tough for the Washington Commanders to run the football. That's just the bottom line here. The defensive line and the linebackers, obviously losing to Kobe Dean's not great, but they held up pretty well last week, all things considered. The defensive line, just the front 7 in general, for the Eagles is nasty, filthy, disgusting. And they've got an old veteran in Darius Slay, still playing well. Not quite the player he once was, but still playing well. And 2 rookie sensations in Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell, I think that's the way you actually pronounce his name. But yeah, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Darius Slay, C.J. Gardner-Johnson on the back end. I mean, it's between the Eagles and the Chiefs as far as the best defenses left standing right now. The Eagles are probably the best one among them. They are a spectacular unit. And I just don't think the Commanders are going to be able to run the ball all that well on them. I think it's going to be pretty much incumbent on Jaden Daniels to create some sort of running game for him. And he's got escapability, man. That speed, you can't teach it, and he's used it to perfection all throughout the course of this season and certainly in the postseason as well. So that's the X factor right there. I don't think they have an advantage really anywhere across the field, I would say, outside of definitely the quarterback. The quarterback is the wild card in this one. On paper, the Eagles should take care of business versus the Commanders' offense. In reality, that man Jaden's cold, and he would scare the absolute shit out of me if I was a Philadelphia Eagles defender, a Philadelphia Eagles fan. That's the wild card right there. If the Eagles can get some pressure, they can get to Jaden Daniels. They don't let him run and get some of those long runs that kind of bust it wide open for the Commanders. The Eagles probably win this thing by double digits. But Jaden Daniels is different, man. I struggle to bet on a rookie quarterback in this type of situation, but that dude's different. That dude is absolutely different. Well, let's flip this thing around. The Philadelphia offense versus the Commanders defense. I'm telling you now, Jaden Daniels is going to have to be spectacular, and he's going to have to probably throw or run for 4 or more touchdowns. Because I don't think the Commanders are stopping the Eagles in this one, man. The Eagles' running game, the offensive line, and Saquon Barkley against this Commanders' front 7. I get the defensive line is good. I get the linebackers are solid behind that. I saw what Jahmyr Gibbs did to him last week. I think Saquon Barkley is about to have a very similar game to what we saw last week versus who was that they played? Who's that they played in the NFC? The Rams. My bad. They faced off against the Rams. I just kind of made a brief allusion to it earlier. I think the run game's going to run wild in this one. I don't think it's a good matchup for the Commanders. And on the outside, I think one of these guys, and Jalen Hurts just doesn't have the arm or the accuracy to consistently have big passing games to get both of these guys involved here on a consistent basis. But one of either Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown, I think, is going to have a huge game in this one. I just feel like the Eagles are well poised to score anywhere from 24 to 35 in that range, maybe more than that if they get a really sensational game from Saquon Barkley, which that's in the cards here. Basically, for the Commanders to keep this thing close, they are going to have to score a lot of points, because I just feel like the Eagles have a decided advantage on offense, and the defense, but for all intents and purposes, seems to have an advantage for them. I mean, if logic would hold, I would be picking the Eagles -6, but that man Jaden scares me. So tentatively, we'll lean the Eagles -6, but we're not betting on that one. I am, however, intrigued here looking at this over-under. I'm looking at 47.5. Yeah, fuck it. I'll take it. 47.5. I feel like something about Jaden Daniels, man. I just feel like he's going to score some points. I think the Eagles will probably score. I expect them to crest 30. With the style, it's kind of hit and miss on that front, but I think they're going to get some long runs like they got last week, and I think they get over 30 in this game. And for the Commanders, I just think Jaden Daniels has one of those games, man. I don't know if they score enough to keep it close and ultimately maybe win this thing, but I think they score some points just based on the brilliance of that dude at quarterback. So yeah, give me the over at 47.5. Just give it to me. And lean to the Eagles. So right now, my tentative pick is the Eagles. Sue me. I think no matter what, honestly, the Eagles win. It's just a matter of how close it is. But I do expect the Eagles to win in this one. And then we've got, where have we seen this matchup before? The Bills on the road at the Chiefs. Everything on the line. A third Super Bowl in a row for the Chiefs. We're talking about the first berth to the Super Bowl for the Bills in my lifetime, I believe. I want to say it's been my entire life plus since they went to their last Super Bowl game. High stakes for both of these teams here, and both are worthy of going to the championship game here. So let's just get into this thing. So we got the Bills defense versus the Chiefs offense. On paper, I feel like the secondary, I don't know. I don't know what Taron Johnson's situation is. I think he's out, actually. I want to say maybe he's back. I can't quite remember. If all holds well, Sean McDermott's been pretty good on the defensive side of the ball this year, and especially going up against the Chiefs. I know you're playing against Patrick Mahomes. You got to contend with the refs as well. You're talking like an extra man on the offensive side of the ball, so that's tough for sure. Don't get me wrong on that. But at the same time, I feel like this is a manageable task for the Bills. And famous last words there, but I think the front seven can at the very least hold them to a stalemate. Kind of bottle up Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco in ways that other opponents maybe haven't. I think the Chiefs just kind of had that happen to them last week. They just kind of pulled one straight out their keister like they've been doing. On paper, again, Bills kind of have an advantage here over the Chiefs offensively. It's still a work in progress for the receivers. Patrick Mahomes is great though. That's the main thing that would obviously scare me. As much as Jaden Daniels scares me at this point, no one would scare me more than Patrick Mahomes on the opposite side of the field of you in a playoff game. That's generally a losing proposition. But the good news is on the other side of the ball, you've got that boy, Josh Allen, another top 5, probably top 3 quarterback in the entire league. Right now, it's Lamar, it's Josh, and it's Patrick Mahomes duking it out for number 1. Mahomes is clearly number 1. But at the very worst, Josh Allen's the number 3 quarterback in the league right now, and he's still somehow getting better every year, which is insane to me. Had another incredible season this year, and the problem is he's facing off against this Chiefs defense, specifically to the defensive line. I'm sure that Steve Spagnuolo is going to probably try to avoid Deion Dawkins as much as possible. with Chris Jones out there. But that's going to be a heavyweight matchup, and every time that Deion Dawkins is matched up with Chris Jones, he's got to win a large majority of those, if not all of them, in order for the Bills to kind of run the offense smoothly. That's a guy that'll make your life a living nightmare if you let him do it, and especially with Jalen Watson coming back in the secondary, kind of unexpected for the Chiefs. They're getting healthier. Kind of unexpectedly here down the stretch. Karlaftis, Jones, Charles Omenihu, remember him coming off of that ACL, signed last offseason from the 49ers there, signed with big money too. He's been playing well. You've got just studs up and down the defense. This is going to be a tough matchup for the Bills offensively. We'll see what happens here because you still got James Cook and you still got a really solid offensive line. They can kind of impose their will with that offense and with James Cook. If Josh Allen can just kind of punch it in on the goal line, maybe get a good play here and there, kind of a la what he did last week versus the Baltimore Ravens. Hey, the ceiling is the roof here. They could very easily win this game. I truly, on the whole, do not know how this game is going to go. If you're looking holistically at the rosters even, I don't truly know because I think the Bills have an advantage on the defensive side of the ball, or the Chiefs rather have an advantage on the defensive side of the ball, but the Bills clearly have an advantage on the offensive side of the ball. I just don't know, man. I mean, intuitively, just kind of on a default basis, I'm probably just going to take the Chiefs. Like, I'm not going to bet on it, but just for purposes of picking here on the show, I'm probably just going to take the Chiefs here. But truly, I have no idea who's going to win this game. I hope it's a banger. I hope it's not a blowout one way or the other. I hope neither of these games are blowouts one way or the other because we only got 3 more football games left in the season right now, man. I do not count the Pro Bowl. Don't get in my face with that dumb bullshit. We got 3 more games right now, man. We might as well make the most of them at this point. So let's get 3 bangers out here, NFL. Let's get 3 bangers out here. So I'm with the Chiefs, I suppose. Not betting it, but I'm with the Chiefs. Over under 47.5. I am staying all the way the hell away from that. I mean, they could. I don't see them getting to 47.5. But also with these 2 quarterbacks, I can understand why you set the line there. And since it's an understandable line to me, I'm staying the fuck away from it. We look for as obvious as possible. At the very least, we get a good feeling about it, I suppose. But there you go. For me, it'd be Chiefs-Eagles once again facing off old foes, reuniting, and it feels so good, at least for one side. We'll see who that would happen to be, but that's my pick for the Super Bowl. Chiefs-Eagles. Who would have thunk it? 2 years later, we thought that this might be the rematch last year. Lo and behold, it could be the Eagles that's ultimately keep the Chiefs from going for 3 in a row. But we'll see. I'm putting the cart before the horse on that one. That being said, that's it, folks. That's all we got here. So thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. We do this thing, starting next week, we're only doing it once a week, all through the off season. We'll get back to twice a week when football season gets back in full gear here. Frankly, I like the two episode a week schedule there. I apologize for that. I just kind of bumped the table that this is on. Don't care. Don't care on that one. Some stupid aggregator account on Twitter. But yeah, I'm kind of relieved we're back to 1 a week. I'm trying to get the fitness in order here. So that is important. That is important. I'm trying to absolutely murder these hikes next year. Absolutely murder them. So we're turning over a new leaf. So I'm happy to get back to a little bit more manageable schedule here, I suppose. Especially with how absolutely fucking busy I am. We don't have to talk about that. But with that said, thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. If you enjoyed, subscribe, like, rate, share with some friends. Get this thing growing. I believe in you. I'm trusting you. Do it. Okay? Just do it. With that said, you can also follow me on the Twitter at CalebVUA. Pretty much the only social I'm on. I have an Instagram, but it's private. Don't follow me on Instagram. Also, the handle is different. Outside of that, you can shoot me a DM if you want to get in contact with the show on Twitter, or you can go over to the email unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com, and we should be good to go from there. Okay, with that said, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. As always, I have got no clue what I am talking about. Well, one thing I learned this week, and it is a real cheap one. I am sure that I've said it before. Maybe I haven't, though. Maybe this is just one I've been keeping in the back pocket because I forgot to put a thing I learned this week in the notes app. So that's on me. That's my bad. That's my bad on that one. But in Poland in World War II, a bear called Wojtek. You may know him as Wojtek. That's not how you pronounce it. It's Wojtek. I understand. Polish is a mystery to me as well, but it is what it is. We just roll with the punches here. Wojtek the bear was responsible for bringing shells to the front line. He was a domesticated bear. He would bring artillery shells out to where they need to go and keep the artillery running there. I believe for the Soviet military. Ultimately, drove them out of Poland, and Wojtek is an absolute hero. So shout out to Wojtek the bear, and also shout out to him for not absolutely mauling some Soviet soldiers or Poles for that matter. Either way, hope you learned something new today. I will see y'all on Tuesday, and I'm not particularly sure what we're going to talk about, but I'll tell you what, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. Trust me on that. Anyways, take it easy. Enjoy the championship weekend. I'll talk to you later. Deuces.